side where the support circle is, we're going to tape a magnet, if you choose to do so, to magnetize your doll's hands. So here's the support circle. I'm placing a small rare earth magnet right beside the thumb, and then I will tape that down with some Dr. Scholl's medical adhesive bandage. You just cut it to size, peel off the backing, and then that will secure the magnet inside the hand after we stuff the doll, and there's no need to stitch it to the arm or anything like that. It's an easy way to secure your magnet. crease in the elbow area on the inside of the arm and just mark it with some pins just to help you visualize, you know, where your doll's arm is going to be bending. And then I just fold it in half the other way and remove the pins and place that crease right on that bottom arch. And so you just want to put it right on that bottom arch and just have your seams in the middle touching and tape it in place very well. Don't worry so much about the top rounded part. It's basically just there to give you a visual aid as to this, you know, your arm should be within that die line so that it stitches a nice arched shape. So just tape it very well. The most important part of this is that bottom arch right there in the crease of the arm. Here, I'm just taping the hands out of the way so they don't get hung up on the pressure foot of our embroidery machine. So I just tape them out of the way. And here you can see where that arch is going to stitch right there in the bend of the arm. Back at the machine, we're going to stitch the tack down for the left arm first and then the right arm. And I'm just holding it out of the way so you can see it stitch. It's not necessary to hold the arm down. So I'll just stitch the left arm. And then we'll stitch the right arm. Now that we've stitched the elbows, we're going to remove the arms from the stabilizer, and I'm just removing the excess tape here, getting it out of the way. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the arm right where it's stitched on the arch, and it'll peel right up effortlessly. And I've already removed the other arm, so I'm just showing you here. There's that crease, and that's what's going to give our doll its posability. So it's important that you stitch that part. And there's the support circle. And I magnetized both arms, so I'm going to actually stick them together and store them this way with the support circles together, so I know which arm is left and which arm is right. Once we finish that, we'll go on to load the knee file so that we can do our legs the same way. So we're just going to load the knee file and stitch an arch shape on stabilizer. And here's our arch shape that we stitched, and this is where our toe is going to go. So we're not going to turn the legs right side out yet. And what you're going to do is you're going to half your toe in half right there, matching up the seams so that they touch as best as you can. And then I'm just going to lay that foot right over that arch shape, about 1/8 of an inch overlapping that arch shape. And I'm just going to tape it in place very well. And I'll just tape it again just to make sure it doesn't shift. Go ahead and tape the rest of the leg down just a bit, just so it doesn't get hung up on our pressure foot. And then back at the machine, I'll stitch the tack down for the toe, and it will double stitch for reinforcement, and it's going to stitch an arch shape. Okay, so what I'm doing here is just removing the tape, and then I'm going to carefully peel the toe up on the tack down line. I'm just going to grab the thread because it kind of goes past our foot and just kind of pull it up very gently. And because I removed that from the hoop and we have a tear, I just taped over that to make it like new. And then what you'll do is you'll stitch the other arch and do the other toe the same exact way. And once you have finished your toes, you're going to stitch the die lines for the knees. And it'll be a rounded shape. So if you have a shape that's kind of flat on top, you are stitching the wrong file. You need to make sure that you're stitching the plastic doll joint leg knee file, and so just go ahead and stitch those die lines for your knees on the stabilizer. Now that we have stitched the toes, now we can turn our legs right side out. You can use hemostats if you want. The leg is big enough for me to turn it by hand, so I'm just doing that now. Is one of our legs, and both of our legs turn right side out, and I'm just going to take some pins, and here in the video I put the circles together so that when I mark the legs they're going to be equal. So just line up the support circles, and you can see I'm focusing on the top of the knee here, which is not really correct. You really want to focus on the back of the knee, the crook of the knee, you know, the back, or the back of the knee, the back of the leg. That's what's most important to focus on. We want to put the back of the knee on that bottom arch on each side, and you just want to, at this point, keep your left leg, right legs on the right side. Support circles together. Pinch the leg in half so that you're placing those seams touching, and there's the bottom arch. I'm just going to line the back of the knee up on the bottom arch of the die line, and remove the pins and tape it in place. And just like with the arms, we're not going to focus so much on the rounded top part of the thigh. It doesn't need to fit inside the die line area. We just want to focus on the back of the knee. So if you're in doubt as to where to place your leg, just focus on the back of the knee, and then just tape everything really well as I'm doing here. And then here's the other side, the right leg, and I'm going to place the back of the knee directly on that arch. It doesn't really matter where the top of the knee falls, it's the back of the knee. So just make that fall on that line, and then tape everything well. Make sure your legs are straight. That's why the rest of the die line is there, so you can make sure that your legs are not crooked, so you get nice arches for your knees. now we're just going to stitch the knee arches. So the machine's just going to go across each knee, starting with the left knee first, then the right knee. And when we're done stitching, we're just going to remove the tape, and we're going to remove our legs from the stabilizer. You don't have to worry about saving your stabilizer at this point. Just the knees will peel right up. So just removing that tape now. And then I'm just going to grab the leg and pull it right up. And you can see the knee of my leg bends, and then you see the arch on the top. So if your arch is below the bend on the top of the knee, then you've stitched your arch way too low. So you can see here's my knee, and then the arch. So, and they're equal because I pinned them and marked them in the same spot. So each leg is equally marked and stitched very neatly. Now that we have the arms and legs made, we're just going to focus on the next video, which is making the head.